and I was kind of interested in what you were asking me. Do you remember that when we were talking?
Yes, it was a good one.
Uh, It was a good, yeah. You were asking me about some of the things about how we used to basically communicate in the old days, and of course, the old days to me, Allie Grace, seemed like about a week and a half ago. I can't. I'm still having trouble realizing the 1900s were 25 years, 26 years ago.
I
So,
know it's
because
crazy.
I grew up in the 1900s, and things were very different. So, what what would you do without your phone? How would life
Honestly,
change?
I get all of my news from my phone. I don't like watch the news on the TV or anything. So
Right.
all my news comes from my phone. All my communication comes from my phone. Navigation. So I feel like it would take some adjusting without it. I'd be like, what's going on? Where do I go? How do I get there? Like, it would be a huge, weird adjustment. I would feel maybe like isolated almost.
Yeah, I had breakfast this morning with a group of guys that we get together every once in a while, and one of the things that oddly that we were discussing was using cell phones and how do we get our news.
Hmm.
And when we were all of a certain age, and we were saying that we used to get two newspapers in Houston. We would get a morning newspaper, which was the Chronicle, and an afternoon paper, which was the Houston Post. And the news would change during that time. So overnight, if something happened overnight, you'd go out in the front lawn, pick up your newspaper, take it in, read it, and see what was going on. And then between that 7 o'clock delivery in your lawn or your on your front porch or your mailbox or however you got it, uh, in a few hours, more news would come out, and
Hmm.
the presses at the newspapers were just running constantly, and so we got our news, a few hours after, and that was things you would read. Then television came along, and I saw my first television when I was 3 years old. So
Okay.
that was when the radio was on before that. I have no memory of radio at all. I mean, obviously, radio in is broadcast radio, but not the old kind of radio where with music and programming. Where people listen to programs. They're sitting there staring at an old radio, big old radio and stuff. I don't have any memory of that. But we had three television stations, and we got all of our
Only
news from
three?
only three. Oh
Wow.
man, yeah, yeah, it was three. That was a big deal to have three. In fact, we had two, and then we got the third one, which oddly was one I wound up working for a while. In fact, I worked for two of them in Houston, two of the television stations later on. But when I was a kid, on Saturday mornings, there used to be this. Again, people of a certain age can relate to this with me, but TV wouldn't start till about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I
Okay.
would wake up on Saturday mornings, and there would be all these uh, cowboy shows and children's programming on Saturday morning. And so I would sit there and sit in front of the TV and stare at this test pattern with this Indian on it. It was just a static image, and I would just sit there and stare at it until the TV started coming on. And
That's
uh,
awesome.
and then we would sign off at 11 at night or something like that, and that was it. There was no round the clock TV. There was no, and our news came on at 6 o'clock, and that's when you got your news on television. So
Wow. Very different from how it is
very
today. Now
different.
there's what thousands of different channels and
So how do you actually what program do you use to get your news? Yeah, how do you get it?
well, I usually get a lot of my information, which is not good, but off of TikTok. And I
Uh-huh.
do watch like news programs or their profiles, so
Mm-hmm.
Fox or CNN or CBS, NBC, whatever has the latest. Um,
Right.
and that's where I'll watch it. I don't sit down and watch like a full news broadcast. I just see like the snippets and I'm like, okay, that's what's going on. Moving on.
I don't either. I don't watch the the broadcast news. My even I get all mine from YouTube, from just little clips of things, and and I have a couple of apps that break in and not break in, but they tell me the latest news, like AP Associated Press has a 24-hour thing where they just you can basically get the headlines, things that
Okay.
are on the headlines and stuff. So very, very different.
Now, how do you get like your local news? Like what's going on like around you specifically?
Yeah, yeah. From streaming, I watch.
Okay.
We stream early morning. Actually watch a stream of a local TV station's news, and so that's how I kind of start the day. And then I'm kind of news poor a lot of the times. There's used to be when I was more active in work and all that. I would you'd have these. They used to call them water cooler discussions. People at work would always come in with, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or a sports situation, or something. And now, because I spend most of my day writing and creating, I'm pretty isolated, kind of like a bear in a cave anymore, and I kind of like it like that. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I'm not as up on news as I could be. In fact, when I meet with these old guys this morning that I met with, we're sharing news a lot, and I'm learning more from those guys, and they have their own kind of points of view, which are not everybody's point of view. Which, of course, nobody has everybody's point of view, but it's a lot of fun to hear all of, and they'll get into some kind of heated discussions because they have different points of view, and that's live. And we just don't. I don't. I think I'm not unusual in that having live conversations with live people in the same room. Well, you and I aren't doing it now. We're doing it on the internet, and I think it's a sad thing, and I think it's a little dangerous that we're not that we're so isolated. Especially now, you're married and have a person there, but there's an awful lot of single people, both younger single people and older single people, older adults who are single, and that's just not good. I think we need more ways to get in the same room with each other. Even movies, people just don't even go to movies anymore. And that was a place you could go and you could kind of sit in the dark with a bunch of people and laugh at something or react to something. Now, Patty and I, we don't do a whole lot of laughing when we're watching even comedy stuff. We don't laugh out loud like you do if you're in a theater
Right.
or a movie theater or somewhere, where you collectively, it's kind of exciting to have that. And of course, the same thing happens with sports where you're in a stadium and everybody's yelling and for your team and things. I
You
think
kind of
that,
have the world like in your pocket, like you don't have to.
yeah,
Why go to the movie theater and, get out of the house when you could just wait a couple weeks and watch it on your couch? It's not encouraged to go out and mingle and, have face-to-face interactions like that.
it's so true with everything being on demand. I don't have to look in the newspaper and see what time the movie starts and try to be there. Uh, and so you can just have everything on demand, and uh, this will I think this will surprise you. And when I think back about it, it even surprises me. When I was a kid and we would go to the movie theater, we didn't know. At least I didn't know because I was a kid, but I didn't even know what we were going to see. But we would go in anytime. We never knew when the movie was starting. You would go in, and whatever was on You were right in the middle of the movie, that's where you sat down and you watched the end of the movie. Then there would be cartoons and newsreels and all these other things. Then the movie would start again, and you would sit and watch it. And a very familiar phrase was, "This is where we came in," because you were watching the film, and it's like when you got to the place where, oh, this is where we came in. You're watching, and I can't even fathom that now. Going to see a movie and not watching it from the very beginning. It just seems so odd to me. But that was a big, I loved it. It was great.
Now, was
So
that like it didn't matter? You would just buy a ticket and you would just go in? Because like my experience similar to that would be like you get a movie ticket and we would call it theater hopping. And so you'd go and you'd get a ticket for one movie and you'd see how long you could stay in the theater. So it was still like that thrill of like hopping around, but you only have a ticket for one,
yeah,
So
yeah.
was it similar to that, or was it like if you have a movie ticket, you can go into whatever?
Yeah, well, most of what we did was legal.
There's a difference there.
Yeah, that was kind of part of our guide, was trying not to go to jail or anything or get kicked out of the theater. But no, we didn't ours. But and it wasn't just when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a young teenager, Elvis Presley had movies, and we would do the same thing with that. We would go in the middle of it. And, I don't know when the first time was I started. Oh, I know when it was. Alfred Hitchcock had a film called Psycho. Have you ever seen Psycho?
Mm-hmm. Watched it recently.
and he wouldn't allow anybody to be seated in the last, I think, it may have been the last 5 minutes, but I think it was the last 15 minutes of the film. And it was kind of a gimmick. It was kind of a marketing thing. But then films started being important, and you would watch it from the very beginning. And so the whole thing shifted. What didn't shift was that ever since I was young, popcorn and candy and all that cost about 20 times more than it should have. That was always the way local movie theaters made their money.
Right. I think it still do. I think it's still.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean,
you get up to the concessions and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, you go see a $300 million film, and you pay twice as much for the popcorn as it did to get into the $300 million film. It's just, it's absurd.
Yeah.
So we didn't, but yeah, movie. Well, for us at the studio, Alan Grace, one of our big clients was Interstate Theater, and they owned, I forget how 20 plus theaters in Houston. They owned the way films worked when I was a kid was we had 3 main movie theaters downtown Houston, right? So all the films came there first, especially the big ones. And so everybody would go downtown to see the first run movies. Then it would go to the neighborhood theaters. So if you wanted to wait, and it would get a little cheaper, and it came to the neighborhood theaters, and that was all over town. And then where the last place it would go?
Mm-mm. What was it?
Drive-in theaters.
Really? I love the drive-in theaters.
Drive-in theaters. The first movie I ever saw in a drive-in theater, I think I was around 3.5, and it was Singing in the Rain was the first film I ever saw in a drive-in theater. Oh, it's a great movie. You got to see it. It's really, really good. And the first movie I saw in a movie theater was Jimmy Stewart. Everything happened when I was around 4 years old, where my memory starts. Okay. I have everything kind of in that area. I don't remember anything when I was 2 or 2.5, but 3.5, and some changes happened in my life at that time. And so that's why I know that's kind of the marker that I have for when things changed. But the first time I saw a television was this guy came to our house and brought a television. He was working at Sears and Roebuck, and he borrowed one. I hope they knew he took it. I hope it was a legit deal. But he brought a TV to our house just over for a weekend for my grandmother and my mother, and we all got to watch it. And the first thing I ever saw was a show called The Lone Ranger, which was a Western show. And I thought I'd never, for 3.5 years, I'd never seen television. And suddenly here, The Lone Ranger was in my living room. And it was like magic. I mean, it was like there's pictures of like National Geographic and where people are exposed to technology they've never seen before, and they're just in awe. And I was just so in awe of this thing, this television thing, and then it became a big part of my life. And when I would sit there in front of the TV waiting for it to come on, I would sit kind of close, and my mother would just kind of yell at me, and that, well, she wouldn't yell at. She was very sweet. She wouldn't yell at me. She encouraged me to step back and sit back away from the TV because she thought it was going to ruin my eyes. And she used to jump on me for watching TV so much, and that it would never amount to anything. And 16 years later, I was getting paid to watch TV. I was editing films for the local TV station, and that cracked me up that I was having to watch TV, and she thought it would never amount to anything. And for a lot of people it didn't, I guess, but for me it did. And so after that first TV show I watched at 3, and then really for the rest of my life, television became an integral part of just my daily life, even my living, the way I made a living. So very, very interesting to me. What's an early show? What's an early show you remember? Is there a TV show you remember from
I mean, the
when you were little?
biggest ones, I know they weren't coming out when I was little, but the biggest
Mm-hmm.
ones that we watched a lot were Lassie. We loved Lassie. The Andy Griffith Show. I Love
Oh,
Lucy
okay.
was really big. I mean, my sister and I
Okay.
watched it over and over. And then whenever my little brother started watching it, he watched it over and over. I mean, we all loved
Right.
that. So we still liked those, older TV shows, but those were the big ones that I grew up watching. They're so
Well, what about like did you watch Sesame Street and
I did. I watched Sesame Street. I don't remember watching like Barney consistently, but we had a VHS of Barney live in New York. And so I remember watching that a lot. My sister hated it, but it was pretty good. There's a guy in it called the Winkster, and he is petrifying. I'm still scared of him. But those are like some big ones that we watched too. We had some VeggieTales in there that we watched. Gosh, there was a
yeah.
lot. It was all on those VHS tapes, though.
Yeah, well, I know your mom was great about monitoring what you guys watched and stuff, and
And how close
uh,
we sat to the TV. That was
that's so funny. What about an early movie? What kind of early movies do you remember that really had an impact on you?
I remember. Well, the first thing that I remember from movies is we had this big hutch in our game room, and all of the movies were on the bottom, and they were all lined up. And my mom, she's super organized. So it was all
Right.
organized and beautiful. And
Right.
wherever you took that movie out, it had to go back right there. And I don't know if I remember the very first movie, but a big one that I remember for some reason is Beauty and the Beast. I remember
Oh,
watching that one super clearly.
sure.
The Lion King, I remember watching super clearly.
Well, those were wonderful. Those were just amazing shows. I mean, even as an adult, watching those films are just wonderful films. And then of course, when most of them got translated into live musicals, and for Broadway and that sort of thing, and those just
And they're
kept on.
remaking a lot of them now. Like they've redone Beauty and the Beast, Ariel, they've redone Snow White. They've redone. I think even Lion King they redid and made it more of like a realistic animation.
Yeah, they just when they find something that really people really respond to, it's just kind of natural to want to keep that franchise going, keep making new things because people identify with it. One of the things that one of the disappointments an early disappointment, was I had because back to the theater thing, Interstate Theaters were one of our large clients that had all the movie theaters, and we took my father mainly took pictures of events that would happen. They would have marketing things, special promotions and things where they would try to have events happen to try to draw people downtown to the theaters and stuff. Well, one of the things Disney had when Disney was very new to TV in the 50s, he did a series, three series on Davy Crockett with a guy named Fess Parker who played Davy Crockett, and in the 50s became huge. Every kid I knew had a coonskin cap and they were everybody would watch it. Well, Disney did the thing that had never been done before that. He took the three different TV shows and he edited them together made a film out of it, made a 95-minute film out of it. And then they sent it out around the country to movie theaters. And then when it came to Houston, Fess Parker came with it. And one of the thrills of my life was I got to go down there as like a 5-year-old, and I had my picture made with Fess Parker wearing the full Davy Crockett costume or outfit, and I got to wear the coonskin cap and hold his rifle when my dad made a picture of me. Huge deal in my life.
That's
So
really
and
cool.
it was, and he was so kind. But
Hold on.
the
hold
other,
on. Oh, wait. Hey, press. Started playing. The TV turned on. Sorry.
no problem.
The TV just randomly turned on. I don't know what happened. Okay, we're back.
No problem. I'm trying to figure out an edit point here.
Sorry.
No. It's fine. But on the flip side of that was my other hero was Roy Rogers. Do you know that name, Roy Rogers?
I know I've heard you mention that, but I couldn't picture them in my head.
He was a cowboy. His wife actually was Dale Evans, and they had a weekly show, the Roy Rogers Show, very cleverly named, and so he was huge. I had Roy Rogers guns. I had all these things that my folks were kind enough to buy for me. I had a Roy Rogers tent. It was just a real big deal. And but not every year, but many years at the rodeo in Houston, it used to be called the Fat Stock Show. He would come to that with Trigger, his horse, and they would perform. And when he got through performing, he would go around the arena with riding Trigger. He would get right up next to the railing there, and every kid in that whole place would rush down there. And when he went by, he would tap your hand, and it was a big deal. And so he was just this amazing hero of mine. Well, again, my dad was there shooting pictures, and we were backstage. We were back behind the thing. And he was back there. Roy Rogers was back there. And he was sitting there. They were filming him. And he was filming some kind of a little insert thing. And Allie Grace, this killed me. He was reading cue cards.
Really?
He was, yeah. And as a little kid, I thought, like the R word. I thought, what is wrong with this man? He was actually having to read stuff and it was things that I heard him say all the time. So I thought, is there something wrong with him? And I was so disappointed. And I thought, and it was my first exposure to not meeting your heroes because, they all have kind of feet of clay and they're just real people. He was just a regular guy. doing a job, and I thought he was, I thought he really lived in Mineral City. I thought the whole thing was just completely real. And when I saw him reading cue cards, I was really crestfallen. It took me a while to get over that.
Facade, kind of like, and you were like, "This is a lie." Like, what? I feel like it's
Absolutely.
a similar feeling of like, you're at Disney World or a theme park, and you see, let's say, Cinderella, and then you like turn, and you see her like behind the roller coaster smoking a cigarette or something, and you're like, Cinderella doesn't do that. Like, what is this?
Well, if Walt Disney caught Cinderella smoking, it would be really bad. Yeah, it would be worse than the Beauty and the Beast. It would be man, that would be a terrible thing if they ever caught Cinderella smoking. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. They're just regular people. Some of those rules that they have are amazing at Disney World. What they have those characters do. But well, hey, you know what? We've been talking a really long time. I could do this forever, and I want to do it again. We'll get together again and shoot the breeze about things that are important to you, important to me, things that I don't get. I want to ask. I got so many questions to ask you, and I hope you have a couple to ask me too, because this is just
tons.
this is just a fun thing. All right, kiddo, you're the best. Well, you're one of the best. You got a sister and a brother that are also the best, and a mom and dad who I think a lot of too. So, I'm just proud to be your granddad, and I'm glad we get together to do this every once in a while. So I'll see you. Happy trails, Roy Rogers used to say. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we're out. Fun. I don't know.
Still say we're live.
Well, yeah. Because I haven't cut off.
Like
yeah.